2-1. Welcome into the Your Illini Nation pregame show. Andy Olson and Jeremy Werner here with you as Illinois football back here at Memorial Stadium, the penultimate time of the 2023 season. Now with something to play for, Jeremy. Win against Minnesota, and now 2 wins in the final 3 games to make it to the postseason seems a bit more realistic for the Illini.
Yeah, huge win, obviously, against Minnesota, and the hero of that day. There were several of them. I want to include Johnny Newton in that. But John Paddock, of course, comes in and relieves Luke Altmaier, who got hurt in that game, and goes 3 for 3 with 85 yards and a touchdown. John Paddock will get the start today with Luke Altmaier out with an unspecified injury. We could speculate about what it is. A certain kind of protocol he has to get through. Didn't get through it this week. So Paddock will get his start. But yes, an important game for Illinois, Andy, as they play an Indiana team that is 3-6, 1-5. Illinois favored. Last I saw by 6. I don't know if that line's come down with Luke Altmaier out for this game. But this is a very winnable game, probably the most winnable game, especially with it being home. You got your backup quarterback in the game. That means everybody else has to elevate their level of play. But if they win this one, you feel pretty good that if you just get one in the next 2, you're going to go bowling. But none of these are easy. None of these are given for an Illinois team that still hasn't won back-to-back games. So the bowl talk seems a little premature until they start winning and stacking wins there.
Well, it seemed unlikely just a couple of weeks ago when they lose to Wisconsin here at home to drop to 3-5. So to be in this position where you get that win against Minnesota, and really this Illini team have been road warriors all season. You think about that win against Maryland as well, and then you beat Minnesota up in their place too. I mean, they've been playing better on the road than it feels like they have been at home.
Well, you're right, because in the Brett Bielema era, against Big Ten opponents, they are 7-5 on the road. They're 4-8 at home. Right? That's a little bit of a concern. So I do think I've talked to Jay Lehman about this. With Illinois and kind of the here we go again attitude, I think they can feel that from the fans, and there's more pressure on them at home. And there is pressure on them in this game, because if they don't get this, all of a sudden you got to go to Iowa and win at Iowa. Well, Iowa's offense is atrocious. Their defensive special teams are elite, and that Illinois hasn't won there in a very long time. So then you put yourself behind the 8 ball. Again, this team has played well when it's behind the 8 ball. But how about you beat a team that you have been better than so far this season? But Indiana, Illinois doesn't play them very often, but they've lost 4 straight to the Hoosiers, including last season, in a game that cost them
in a game that they probably should have won just based on how they looked on the field.
And they dominated. They dominated in the trenches. And with John Paddock in, listen, we can talk about him here in a little bit, but when your backup quarterback is in, you need your defense to be good. You need to be able to run the ball. You need to be the more physical team and own the trenches. That's what we expect out of a Brett Bielema team. That needs to show up today.
All right, well, let's just get right into Paddock. Of course, his 3 plays, 85 yards down the field. That surprised everyone. I don't know if a single person that expected that when he came into the game for Luke Altmaier after being hit, sacked the play before and being taken out of the game. But I think, Jeremy, from what I saw, you were there, but from what I saw on TV, he showed poise in the pocket, made some good reads, was able to find and go through his progressions on the field. And that's exactly what you want from a backup QB who's not necessarily taking those reps with the ones every week.
It was a legendary performance. I mean, this is a kid whose family has a deep history here. His grandfather was an All-American here. His dad, or his uncle played here. There's just a long history. So to leave his own legacy in just one game is phenomenal. He'll always have that moment. Most importantly, I think going into this start gives him confidence that I could do it at this level after playing at Ball State, starting all of last year, and gives his team a lot of confidence that, hey, we can win with John Paddock in the game. That said, he's not going to go 3 for 3 for 85 yards. He's not going to carry all of that over into today's game. And he's a backup for a reason. Luke Altmaier is the more talented, dynamic quarterback. And Luke Altmaier's played really well over the last 5 games. 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he's run the ball extremely well. John Paddock's a different quarterback. His arm is not as strong. And outside of the Minnesota game, his accuracy has waned when we saw him against Purdue and Penn State. He missed some throws. So those are some concerns. And he's not as good of a runner. But I do think what John Paddock brings is that poise, that experience. He gets rid of the ball quickly. He diagnoses quickly. And he has experience in his corner of being able to play at these FBS games for an entire year last year. And he seems ready for this moment. I think he's a natural leader, probably more so than Luke Altmaier. And I think the guys believe in him, brings kind of a fire and a passion. For me, it's about, can he consistently make accurate throws? and what happens when he gets a pass rush, because this offensive line has been bailed out by Luke Altmaier and his ability to scramble. Luke Altmaier can move, but it's more like Tommy DeVito than Luke Altmaier. So those are going to be keys today.
All right, one more note on Paddock as well. Do you think that Barry Lunny Jr., offensive coordinator, is going to call that game differently today with Paddock in rather than Altmaier?
I don't think so, and I think that's a great point. I think he's got confidence in John Paddock. You saw it in the final 3 plays, right? I mean, you do a deep curl with Isaiah Williams. He throws in between the zone, nice quick strike to Pat Bryant for a first down, and then they go deep ball. And he's shown confidence that John Paddock can play this. I think he knows he can manage this offense really well. And I think that's the important thing for John Paddock is, listen, I watched Tyson Bagent kind of game manage a game for the Bears. I think Paddock can do a little bit more, and I think you're going to have to trust him to make some more throws than Bagent made in that game. But I think he's going to give you a chance to win this game. I don't think he's got to go outside of who he is and outside of the offense. But Barry Lunny certainly has to call a good game. I think most importantly, just as it is with Altmaier, you got to run the football. You got to stay ahead of the sticks, pound the ball with Caden Fagan. You get Reggie Love back today, get a little bit more depth, and this offensive line really needs to set the tone up front to put John Paddock in manageable third downs.
Yeah, and that running back room is interesting today as well. Caden Fagan, not the only scholarship running back back there today, with Reggie Love coming back from injury, but it's just those two as far as scholarship backs go. Caden has done a phenomenal job as a true freshman, I feel like, coming in for those injured guys above him on the depth chart, and has exceeded, I think, his own expectations for what this season can be. But Reggie Love brings a little bit of a different dynamic in that running back room, and I feel like that's something Illinois could use today against Indiana.
Yeah, I think Caden Fagan is still going to get 70+% of the snaps and carries today. So anyone worried about that? No. Caden Fagan is their guy. He has given them an identity, given them a physicality, and I think has just made Barry Lunny's job much easier when you get into 3rd and 5 and 3rd and 6 instead of being 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 11 like they were against Penn State and Purdue. But Reggie Love can give him a break. Reggie Love can give him an option that's a little bit more explosive, right? I mean, we've seen some explosiveness out of Caden Fagan, but Reggie's more of a quick cutter, gives him maybe more of an option who can get to the outside a little bit more. Most importantly, though, I think he gives him a reliable pass protector. So on 3rd down, I think Reggie Love can come in and really protect the quarterback well, which I think is important, again, because Luke Altmaier can make that offensive line make up for some of their mistakes. Caden Fagan's gotten better as a pass blocker, but I think Reggie is just that reliable veteran. And to be honest with you, I think Reggie is a great number 2 running back. And I think he was forced into the number 1 role because Josh McCray wasn't playing that well. The other guys weren't quite ready. So I think him being that number 2 role, I think that suits him really, really well. And I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the defense as well. You mentioned that defense needs to play well when you got the backup quarterback in. Johnny Newton playing the whole game this time after only playing 1 half, serving a targeting suspension in the first half against Minnesota. He was a game wrecker against Wisconsin. And then, of course, after the ejection, things kind of go sideways for the Illini. Game wrecker against Minnesota in the second half. Has he just hit his just another level at this point of the season?
Well, if you remember, last year against Indiana was a little bit of a coming out party. I know that Illinois lost, so it kind of gets overlooked with some of those questionable calls, the last drive. Johnny Newton had 10 pressures in that game. 10. Just an absolute game wrecker in that one. Just Illinois' offense turned the ball over way too much, put their defense in some bad positions. But that was kind of his coming out party. And I want to be honest, like Indiana's offensive line, especially in the interior, is still a question mark. So I think Johnny Newton, again, could wreck the game. He's got to get double teamed. I expect Indiana to do that. But that opens up opportunities for Seth Coleman, a healthier Keith Randolph, you hope. And Keith was good last week. Seth Coleman's come out with 4 sacks in the last 3 games. Gabe Ackus, you hope, can take another step forward. But that defensive front, I think, is a huge reason for confidence. I think they're playing their best ball right now. And you got potentially the best interior defensive lineman in the country, going to be a top 20 draft pick. Enjoy him while you can, but he is important today. But yes, Brendan Sorsby, the Indiana quarterback, has played really well the last couple weeks. Indiana gave Penn State a legitimate scare. They obviously beat a Wisconsin team that's a little depleted right now, but still a good win for Indiana. Sorsby's a tough runner. He can escape the pocket, and he's making good throws right now. Last couple games, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 60+ completion rate. He's playing really well right now, so that defensive front has to make him feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, a lot of question marks, it feels like, for Indiana this season in general. Question marks coming in. now off to the start that they had, not getting that first Big Ten win until beating that Wisconsin team, leaves more question marks going into the offseason for the Hoosiers. And I feel like Illinois can't overlook them because of that. You look at the Big Ten record, 1 win right now, but it's a team that wants to try and make something happen before the season's out. Technically, their season's not over yet either. They're just 3-6. I don't know the chances of running the table, but it's not over for them either.
Yeah, huge question marks about Tom Allen and whether he's going to be the guy long term. He's got $20 million buyout, which is a big buyout for Indiana and their football program. But if they end the season 3-9, they probably need to make a move, especially with the Big Ten expanding here. But his team has not quit. They play hard. They're a tough football team, in my opinion. They are depleted at certain positions, wide receiver. They got 2 of their top 3 guys out right now. Donovan McCulley's a really good former quarterback. He's now a wide receiver, 6'5". He's really good, but they're a little depleted there. Their offensive line, defensive line, not their strengths. But they played strong defense the last couple of games. Their quarterback has played well. So they are playing hard. And let's be honest, Indiana only might have 1 Big Ten win. Illinois only got 2. And they have only a Big Ten game at home. They're 0-3 at home right now. So Illinois cannot come in overconfident. Like, this is a team that has not earned that quite yet. They have to be hungry. But Indiana, they're 3-6, but they got games against Illinois, 2-4 in the Big Ten. Michigan State, 1-5 in the Big Ten. Purdue, 1-5 in the Big Ten. They have a path to a bowl game as well. So both these teams should be equally motivated.
Well, it's got me excited for the game now. It should be chippy out there. It should be a lot to play for both sides. As we kind of start to wrap up here, Jeremy, for you, some guys that are you're looking for on, I don't want to say players of the game, but just some guys to watch out for on either side for you.
Obviously, Isaiah Williams is an engine of this offense, and Caden Fagan is too, but I love that Barry Lunny, 17 targets. He got number 1 the ball after teams and started limiting him in the last 3 games. I expect teams to continue to try to do that, but you got to find a way to get Isaiah Williams the ball because he's just so dynamic and he's become a really good downfield threat for them as well. But on the defense, I need the secondary to make a play.
Sure.
When's the last time they made a game-changing play? So much has been on the front. They need to make that interception, that big play that turns a game. It's something that we probably took for granted last year with the secondary. We know how talented they were. But Xavier Scott's had a good season. He's let some opportunities go through his hands. Miles Scott hasn't had a big play, really. He's been reliable, but he hasn't made a big play since that pick 6 against Toledo, which is becoming a really good win for Illinois as we look back on it with Toledo not losing ever since then. But those guys need to make a play. And be honest with you, the 50-50 balls on both sides of the ball, Pat Bryant had 3 balls hit his hand last week in the end zone that could have led to points, and he wasn't able to reel them in. Minnesota's DBs made some plays, but those got to turn into big plays for Illinois.
All right, let's get to predictions now. Illinois, Indiana, like you said, earlier was 6.5-point favorite for Illinois. Not sure if that has changed since then. Does that change your opinion with John Paddock coming in?
I expected him to play. It seemed pretty clear. It felt like, Brett Bielema was saying, hey, he was moving, progressing during the week, and then, didn't get to clear to practice when they wanted to. So maybe there was a day that he didn't progress through the protocol that he needed to. But it felt like Paddock was going to play here. So I think that's a pretty big number, to be honest with you. I know Illinois is at home. I know they've won 2 of their last three games. But Indiana's playing good, too. And with a backup quarterback, I do get concerned when that pocket breaks down. Can he make the plays that Altmaier would? He's not as big as Altmaier, so those are concerns for me. Plus, his team just hasn't been consistent. So I think it's going to be a nail-biter. I do think Illinois is the more talented team. I think they're a little bit deeper than Indiana right now. But I got to be honest with you, I think this is a more even matchup than the six-point spread showed. So I have Illinois winning, but eking out another close one, 20-17.
All right, I'm in the similar vein here because I think everything you said is correct. Like, when 2 teams are so close, however, you got to go with, in my mind, when we're making these predictions on paper, who's the more talented team? It's probably Illinois in this one. So I think it's going to be a touchdown higher score. I'll go 24-21 for both sides.
What gives me confidence for Illinois is I think the difference is you have a Johnny Newton, you have an Isaiah Williams. I might give Indiana the quarterback advantage here coming into this game, but I don't think it's big. But I think he's played a little bit better here recently and has just played well. But I do think Illinois has got the game changers. They just have to make those plays.
All right, this one should be an interesting one. Kickoff here in just about an hour at Memorial Stadium. Jeremy, for people who have some time to spend at home, they're not coming to the game, they're going to watch on TV. Like, how can they spend that hour on the Illini Inquirer?
Yeah, we got a lot of basketball content up now from last night's win. Quincy Guerriere, big game. Derek Piper's going to have player grades coming up. Got a little recruiting stuff on the site as well. But, of course, once this game's over, we'll have all the reaction, all the analysis coming up, and our post-game podcast as well.
Tremendous. All right, wherever you're watching this right now, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, WCIA.com. Come back later after the game for Brett Bielema's full post-game comments right here as well, right after the game. No early on WCIA tonight, so you will see highlights plus my game report here from Memorial Stadium at 10 o'clock on the news later. Jeremy, good talking to you once again. A couple more of these, and then hard to believe that we're in the final fourth of the season already.
We'll see if they can close well. Last year they weren't able to close. This year they're not able to start. This would be a huge back-to-back wins to set them up for a potential bowl game in December.
All right, should be a fun one for Jeremy. I'm Andy. Thanks so much for spending your time before the game with us. Enjoy the game, everyone, and we will see you afterwards.